Hello again and welcome this time to our coverage of the 60th running of the Fleche Wallonne, the first of what they call the Ardennais weekend, although this and Liege Bastogne Liege no longer run on Saturday and Sunday, but they're spread over a period of 4 days. And this great race taking in 10 major climbs, but there are a number of climbs which they don't even count, and the race coming to rest finally after 4 climbs of the Wall of Huy, the race starting in Spa. Now, last year there were 3 riders in at the kill: Fondriest, Berzin and Jalabert. So, as we look here at the winners, Fondriest won in 93, Jalabert was the winner last year, and we can now just remind ourselves as to what happened on that occasion on the climb of the Mur de Huy. Now he looks across just to see what Jalabert is thinking. A little bit of resistance from Berzin, but Fondriest is going now, and he's going in a very low gear. Such is the gradient here. And Berzin is gone, he had no answer to that now. And right on his wheel is Jalabert, and not giving an inch. Fondriest has gone, but Jalabert has not dropped an inch here, and that's good for Jalabert. The finish now just around this corner, and Fondriest will now see the finishing line. Jalabert kicks this time, and a nasty little hook from Maurizio Fondriest. But Jalabert has come round him easily, looks across at Fondriest and says, my 10th win is here. And for the 3rd time this year in a classic, Maurizio Fondriest is second. And indeed, for the 2nd time this year, he's finished second to Laurent Jalabert of France. Indeed, and Laurent Jalabert of France went on to become the world #1 rider last year, and also the rider to win the most races around the world. What a season he really did have. Back now, though, to the 60th running of Fleche Wallonne, and down there, the head of the peloton. It's been a good breakaway, which has now come to an end by Richard Virenque, after a break of some 100 kilometres, along with a new pro, Delanova from Italy. And those riders are now back in the fold, as the race has now climbed the Huy twice. We've covered approximately 145 kilometres, and we're heading up now towards the top of the Côte de Paille, which crosses over at 147 kilometres covered. There is Maurizio Fondriest again, near the end of a race. He's in the thick of the action. A glimpse of Lance Armstrong, who is riding this race, having had a week training down on the French Riviera. In fact, where Jim Okovitz was also, his team director was down there with him, and Lance Armstrong getting a lot of miles in down there. Something like 28 hours he spent in the saddle, and he says he feels good. Well, we'll see. The main field thinned down somewhat from the 182 starters. The overall distance of the race, by the way, 126 miles, just on 200 kilometres. And this meant to be the stepping stone to the classic Liege Bastogne Liege coming up in 4 days' time, based in the same region. The riders now in the middle of their classic season, and the Armstrong group 48 seconds in the lead. Now, this is an interesting little move here. The rider sitting at the back of the group, number 34, is Gabriele Colombo, the winner of Milan-San Remo. And once you've got a big win under your belt, the confidence comes rushing in. Now he's looking for the moves. Armstrong wearing the magic number today, if that means anything to him. 51. It's won the Tour de France more times than any other number. And this isn't quite the Tour de France, but every rider loves to pull on that number, 51. And going through there too, Mauro Gianetti. Gianetti won last year 2 great classic rides, and it started with Liege Bastogne Liege, something of a surprise. Here's Fondriest, and I think he's got his teammate up here as well, Alexander Gonchenkov. And there at the front also, in the white jersey of the gang colours, is Didier Rousse, having a very good season, having his best season actually. There is Gonchenkov, the Russian rider. And there's the complete list. Colombo, Armstrong, Zaina is the other man up here for the Carrera team, just to the right of our picture, of the caption here. So Fondriest in a very strong position. He just had a word there with Enrico Zaina. And Zaina going backwards rather rapidly, as if something was requested, but I doubt it, from 2 rivals, although they both speak the same language, of course. Armstrong being left to bridge a little bit of a gap there, left open by Gonchenkov, and Fondriest, you see, calling Lance Armstrong through, but it wasn't really Armstrong's fault at all. Armstrong keeping the rhythm up. Back to the chasers here, and chasing for the MG, and they've got to do all the work. Marco Salagari, the MG of the team that's missed the move, so too the Festinas, with the wiping out of the breakaway by Richard Virenque. That was a great ride by Virenque, and of course because it was Virenque in that breakaway and the awareness that he is a rider who enjoys long escapes. Remember his ride to Cotteret last year in the Tour de France, and then the MG team decided they had to limit the escape, but they've still missed the move. Della Vedova was the other rider who was away, a new professional by the way from Italy, rides on the Basiliat team, who was away with Virenque. Virenque finally cracked him, and then the race wiped out Virenque as well. There we've got the 7 riders in the breakaway. We're heading our way round on the second big circuit here now. The circuit's made up. We have the 55-mile run between Spa and Huy, climb the mountain or the wall. Then we do our first circuit around at 22 miles, back up the wall again, and then a second circuit of 44 miles, and in all, by finishing on top of the wall, means we climb it 4 times. Armstrong got off to a superb start this year when he picked up 2nd place overall in Paris-Nice, so close to being the winner even. But he still hasn't won an event since his World Cup win last year in San Sebastian. This little group is holding on to a precarious lead here, but they do have a lead and they are working well together. The average speed at the moment is simply superb, and if it continues to the end, we are going to annihilate the record for Fleche Wallonne. 58 seconds the lead, so they're still pushing away because there is a commitment here in this breakaway. A good assessment by any of the riders tells them that all teams, well, not all teams, but many of the good teams are represented here, meaning that there aren't many teams left to chase. The pressure has gone on to Festina and MG to try and bring their riders across. Time for a little bit of dinner there for Maurizio Fondriest, while his teammate Gonchenkov continues with the pressure at the front. Zaina sitting here just off our picture now. Gabriella Colombo gone through. Here's Zaina coming through now. Plenty of drive in this breakaway. Didier Roos. Then Fondriest, followed by Armstrong. Little wave of the arm, I think, to say keep closer to the back wheel, perhaps. Mauro Gianetti, in his 11th season as a pro, and had something of a renaissance last year, and bad luck as well because he crashed in the Tour of Switzerland, breaking ribs. But before that, he picked up 2 great World Cup wins, the Amstel Gold Race after he'd won Liege Bastogne Liege. 1 minute and 2 seconds, so we're still going up, and that's because this breakaway is totally committed here. Well, Armstrong will know now just how well he feels, because he said he wasn't sure because he hasn't raced since the Tour of Flanders. He didn't ride Paris-Roubaix, of course. He was down preparing for the Ardennes weekend. That's Didier Roux. Ghana having a marvellous start to the year this year, and they're using a lot of different riders to get their wins as well. Zaina goes through, and then followed by Mauro Gianetti. This is the effort behind Onse, MG, and there's a bit of a panic going on here, and I'm not surprised, because this race is still travelling around 30 miles an hour in the bunch. They've just seen the time check, which we have just seen, of 1 minute and 2 seconds. This is Felix Garcia Casas for Festina. And number 5 there is another Garcia, Marcelino from Spain and the Onse team, and number 7 here, Roberto Sierra. So with 3 strong teams racing, you'd think they would eat into that lead, but they aren't. Colombo second in line here as we head towards the Côte de Boisso. Gabriella Colombo got off to a great start with the win in the Tour of Calabria in February. Then he rode the Tirreno Adriatico, where he finished 5th as well, and then wins Milan San Remo before he picked up the overall prize in the Tour of Sardinia. So he's having a superb season, 4 wins under his belt already, and good ones at that. Enrico Zaina Always worth a man for the effort. Now we're over a minute at the moment, and this is still looking very, very good. We're onto the climb here of the Côte de Boisseau, which leaves officially the Côte de Ahin and the Muir de Huy to take us up for the final time to the top, on the third climb rather, because we go round once more. There's no prize except the winner's prize on the last climb. Zaina this year still waiting for his first show of big form, and this may be the day. No wins yet for him. This breakaway really coming together soon after the second climb of the Muir de Huy, when the Blanche split up in a big way. Zaina, Colombo, Didier Roos. This is a pressurised breakaway. It is still going away. It is edging away. 1 minute and 12 seconds. Armstrong takes a little look over his shoulder there. Fondriest does not look to be riding quite as smoothly as he might be. He's allowing the gaps to open a little bit there. That's where we are, heading up towards 155 kilometers. And Gonchenkov in this breakaway, he finished second, which was a great performance for the Russian rider in Tirreno Adriatico, and of course runner-up behind Colombo in Milan-San Remo. So we've got the first and second in Milan-San Remo in this breakaway. Little call for a chat with the team car from Mauro Gianetti here. And Gonchenkov has continued great form. He rode into 8th place in the Tour de Flanders. Lance Armstrong in the thick of the action there, but falling away just to the end to finish in the 20s. So the team having a chat here at the back of the race, and I just saw a glimpse of Djokovic's Motorola car slip back as well. He'll be feeling very happy with the way things are going, with the strong man of the team in the right position just now. There's a novel way to try and eat if you can. Fondriest up to the side of his team car now. It's probably the time, with the gap now clearly over a minute. The team cars have been allowed to come up to this breakaway, and the chance for the team managers to get alongside their charges and just inject them with a little boost of confidence to tell them that this breakaway is looking as though it's going clear, and to keep the pressure on, because they would have expected at this sort of speed to have raced well clear of that main field, but there is such a good chase going on, they certainly haven't done that. And yet we're looking at a race here being enacted at around about 30 miles an hour at the moment, and despite the hills too. It's a very solid breakaway. There isn't a man shirking, and now it's time for Gabriela Colombo to also have a word. And there's the team cars. They're all up here. They all feel this is the move. Now, it's important at this stage of the race they don't start to ease off the pressure by just spending too long dropping back and talking to their team cars, because if they do that, then that chase by MG Festina Once is going to have them. So the 23-year-old Gabriela Colombo is back with his team car. Came to our notice really in a big way in last year's Tour de France. There's Didier Roux. Put his hand up now, he'd like a drink. He has started a great season this year. He won stage 4 rather, the Tour of Valencia. And then he beat Chris Boardman, his more famous teammate in the time trial, in the Criterium International in March. And then he popped up with a second place in Paris Camembert. Very unlucky there. He happened to go away with Adriano Baffi. And Baffi, of course, used to be a great sprinter and can still sprint pretty good. And Didier Roux had no chance against him in Paris Camembert. But he's in the move again and enjoying every minute of it so far. Here's the offensive coming from the bunch, from the Festina boys and MG. Number 86 here, Pascal Hervé. He's a rider who's already signed up to come across to the Tour du Pont in the United States this year. The three teams equally spread at the front. Unusual sight this, to see three teams putting in the chase, but they're all working together, and yet that breakaway is still going clear. There's Hervé. Didn't turn pro till he was 29 due to injury when he was an amateur rider. Then he got keen and started riding a bike again to rehabilitate, and he has a tremendous talent. And sitting there, number 23, is Michele Coppolillo from the MG squad. So friends in defence here as they try to get this race back into the fold, and I'm not sure they're going to do it at the moment. Long open flatland surrounding this part of the Ardennes, but we're in the area really of the beautiful forested woodland area where the deer roam wild, and this is the most beautiful part of Belgium. This is the French-speaking area where they are the Walloons who live here and not the Vlaams, and where they speak Flemish. 38 seconds, so there's a reaction which has had an effect. They are bringing them back. Still looking for a reaction from that group that will finally shut this breakaway down. It's not for a lack of effort now coming from this group, and that was probably why the Festina car was up here. Just to say, keep the pressure on because we are getting up there. Michele Coppolillo drops back, and the work being shared equally. Jean-Cyril Robin now of Festina. Just 25 miles to go to the line. So time is running out, and there's still a couple of tough climbs to come, to say the least. That's Roberto Sierra from Once. And Coppolillo is doing a lot of work. He's gone through again at a very high speed there. And now back up to the leaders. Now there might be a little bit of panic setting in here because they're going to have to start to go, or maybe even put in an attack to break up this breakaway if they're not going to increase the lead or indeed lose seconds here. Konchenkov dropping back. Look at this speed today, 43.5 kilometers an hour. Nearly 27 miles an hour today. That's a record by a long, long way if they continue that. Armstrong through. Gabriel Colombo. As Gianetti swings off, Didier Roux moves up the outside of the line. They're still working very well together. No sign of a weak link at all. There's the cool face of Lance Armstrong. He still looks pretty content with the way things are going. And there's an idea of just how fast we're going. 31 miles an hour just at this minute. I'm not surprised these riders are rather huddled over their bikes and getting on with the job, because they are giving an awful lot of effort out here. A lot of effort, in fact, which they really could do with saving a little bit for the climb of the Huy. Didier Roux chosen to follow the wheel of Konchenkov. Good turn by Mauro Gianetti. Gianetti, as I said earlier, now been a pro for 11 years. That's a great long career he's had. And this isn't a perfect day for high speed. There is a little bit of a wind around. So Gianetti won the second stage of the Criterium International. That's his only performance of note this year. But his form quite clearly coming once again. There's Zaida. And they've gone clear again. So they read the warning bells. They've opened up the gain. That 50 km/h burst has done the job. And it's now started to go. Now that may be the psychological gap that the peloton will crack on. They thought they were coming back. And now it's opened out again. There could be a realization that they're not going to catch these. It's superb speed riding this. Although they list 10 small climbs in the race, which start with the Côte de Filo after 33.5 miles, there are other climbs that don't count, including the 2 climbs of the wall, which don't count towards the general classification of the hills competition. They only count 1 climb of the 4 climbs in the Mer de Huy. That's the 3rd time they go up it with a lap to go. And there's how it's been working out in the way the time gap has yo-yoed around. This is a new graphic we've got for you here. As the red bit is when they started to lose their lead, but it started to go into the green again, and that's good news, of course. All the Festinas. Team from Andorra, but they've now apparently registered their team in France. And the MG Technogym, they're very similar colours, the MG Technogym of Festina at a glance, and it often appears that they're all on the same team, but they're not, of course. Now looking at that, I think it's just over 70 kilometres an hour. Well, this is going to be, they're going to be round the course in no time at all today. They're all going to be in the showers pretty early. And the man that wins this, I'm pretty certain now, is going to be the man to go in the books as being the rider who has set the fastest ever Fleche Wallonne. What a fitting time to do that as we celebrate 60 years of this event. Or 60 editions of this event. Still the same riders. Sierra doing a little bit of work at the front again. And now we've got Salagari just passing through. They're followed by Garcia. But ahead, the empty road as we look down into the field here. Laurent Jalabert, the winner last year, not in the event because of injury. So the throne is open for the taking today. A new king will be crowned at the end. Coppolillo doing more than his fair share in the chase for MG as well. And also not here, the winner of Paris-Roubaix and the leader of the World Cup. And although the Fleche Wallonne isn't a World Cup race, which is rather sad, Johan Museo still hasn't turned up for this event. I think the only reason that the Fleche Wallonne is not a World Cup counting event is because of its proximity to all the other World Cup events, and because it's also in Belgium, Liege Bastogne Liege, La Doyenne of the Classics. That has the World Cup tag, and that's in 4 days' time. There's the little group that got together and has not stopped pedalling its heart out since, because they haven't relinquished anything at all down there. They've been going so well, so quickly. And there's no sign of there being a passenger here either. Everybody is throwing their weight in. Fondriest taking the line through over Didier Rousse. The long empty road ahead, and Armstrong decides to just feel a little bit relaxed. He really does look cool today. Little glance at Didier, and then carries on. We're now 35 kilometres from the line. About 23 miles. And a nice drop down here. And still no decision made in this breakaway. They've still got the gap. It is going up. 8% the descent here, but a very good road, as you can see. The roads in this area, at least the roads they use for Fleche Wallonne, tend to be wide. They're not quite the same roads as we use for Liege Bastogne Liege, where the roads tend to be a little bit narrow in places, especially on some of the hills around some of the great villages like Toipon and Stavelot. So we're just around about 31 kilometers here from the finish, about 20 miles to go. Didier Roux must be wondering where he got this great form from. He's come into a good season this year. He's found a team which is very happy. Gabriele Colombo, another man who has shot himself to the fore now as well. And he looks pretty cool as well. Just time for a drink and no panic. Fondriest, who was voted by Robert Miller as the most stylish cyclist he'd ever seen, the way he sits his bike. Much different position to his teammate Gonchenkov, who's just going past him now. And then the streamlined position of Gabriele Colombo. 51 seconds, they are being held agonizingly close for the chasers, but they can't quite close down that gap. 51 seconds and round about 20 miles from the finish here. That is not an unstoppable breakaway by any means, but both riders in both groups are at the limit of their chase speed, surely. Around about 30 miles an hour, including the hills, is formidable. Colombo goes through, and again this has been a brilliant choice for a breakaway. Every one of these riders putting the weight behind. Nobody's shirking. That line is working well, and that's the only reason this breakaway has survived like it is doing. Onto the little climb on the Côte de Boisseau. 20% in the middle, short, sharp and steep. It looks as though Gianetti is having none of it. He's sitting off the back here now, just going up with the group. Armstrong looks to be getting to be one of the strong men in this breakaway. Armstrong looks over his shoulder to speak about him, moves down to the back of the line and makes Didier Roux close the gap. This is a little bit of a counter-attack here that's coming. Well, not really. They're just trying to still finish off, but they've got the assistance now of the Brasiliat team. That's Fabrizio Bontempi it was. Launched the sprint at the front of that line. So over the top of the Boisseau, we're 174 kilometers done now. And still the counter coming now for Festina. Now this may be seen by a lot of the riders as the last chance to really eat into that breakaway. They've got to get closing it down now quickly. And they're starting to reduce it again. 47 seconds now for the group Armstrong, as they are calling it. I would have thought they'd have afforded that honour to the winner of this race a couple of years ago, Maurizio Fondriest, but there we are. Mauro Gianetti, Armstrong. And now this is Coppolillo again turning the screw as they try desperately to bring it through. There's Berzin. They know they've got to do it very quickly now. Time is not on their side at all. Zayn dropped to the back. It looks the way they're riding here that word has got back to them too, that group is coming back once again. Look at the tempo here. It's a pity that they're just in the shadow of the trees there from our helicopter, because this is really a crucial part of the chase now. The Gaywis boys have got all of the men up to the front. Well, 3 of them at least. There's Berzin. trying now to close down on this breakaway. He's being followed through there, I think, by Frattini. As a reminder of the groupe de tête. And Spring a little bit late in arriving in Belgium. It's about 3 or 4 weeks behind all over Europe after a rather chilly start to the new summer season for the cyclists. And the gap continues to fall. 39 seconds now. This is beginning to look very, very fragile indeed. Berzin and the Gaywiz boys are moving right to the front. I haven't actually seen them do the work yet, but they're right there poised. And maybe Berzin's planning an attack as soon as the chance presents itself. Gabriella Colombo takes the line through here. There's been no rest for these 7. Armstrong has gone to the back. Follows the line through. Everybody's still working. Then Fondriest quickly tacks onto the back wheel of Armstrong. It seems to me that Armstrong and Fondriest are going around this line together, which indicates that it's Fondriest who rates Armstrong as the man to watch. And Gabriella Colombo has missed a turn as somebody stretches at the front. It's here Giannetti who's gone. Well, hasn't gone, but he's hurt them a little bit as Gonchenkov gets to grips with matters. The gap is down to just half a minute. So Armstrong follows through Gonchenkov. Here's the champion of Italy now, Gianni Bugnos, who are back with the field. So MG Technogym sending up the big man to do some of the work, and he's being marked here by Andrea Perron of Motorola. Then comes Berzin, and there's a sprinkling of teammates breaking in here. There's another one, Axel Merckx, also trying to break up the system. The Gann boys are playing their part. They're all here. Axel, son of Eddie, and we're just waiting for a good performance from Axel, which will break him out of the shadow of the fact that he is Eddie Merckx' son. He did a great ride in his last year as an amateur in the World Championships in Norway, and was very unlucky that he didn't run out the world champion on that occasion, but he earned a lot of friends then, and since then he's become a pro. Steady at the moment, but he's still very, very young, of course. Gerard Rouet for Gann, trying to break up the rhythm of the boys who are chasing down. What we have to be careful of is the flotilla of people behind don't get too many, and that's why you see the arms there of, I think it's Jean-Marie Leblanc, trying to move all these motorbikes out of the way. These are nervous moments now. Jean-Marie calling to the cars behind because they're all getting twitchy. I think this breakaway is coming back because it's taking out all of the cars, which means we're inside 30 seconds, just leaving Mavic service there perhaps. Well, what a hard thing to do if they come back now, but then again, if you're in the bunch, of course, it's a great thing to happen. Giannetti, Colombo, still they're all crouched over the handlebars. I think they're probably too scared to look back over their shoulders now because they might actually see the peloton. So it looks as though they've allowed just the service car to stay in there, because the service takes around 10 seconds, the gap is around 30, they could still keep that rider in the hunt. Roux around the corner, Roos rather. Heading towards the Côte d'Ahan, which will put us at the 190 kilometre point. We're still about 11k to go, so we're still a little way from the finish. Something I feel has got to happen when we get to this coast, if it doesn't happen before, because that group is chasing them down. It's not the full field, of course. The field split on the first climb of the Puy. I'll be 190 kilometers done when we get to the top of the Côte d'Ahan. Around about 180 done at this point. Colombo pedaling his legs off, takes the line through. The wind now coming across the fields from the right. Therefore, the line has altered its changing pattern to come through on the inside of the riders. Gianetti, they're only doing short turns, a sign of a group which is working well but is anxious to keep the pressure on. It's simply a question of through and off. Well, it was until Didier Roos got to the front. A little bit slower for Fondriest. Fondriest, I don't think, is that good today. The Festina team here. And there is Gann trying to break it up. And we've also got one of the Rosselotto riders here. It's good to see that all of the teams are trying to break up the rhythm, and they're having some degree of success. There's Andrea Perron. He's also more than playing his part too, at 22 and a bit kilometres to go to the finish. Gawis, Berzine. They're not going to make any big effort while they've got Colombo in the break, but I'm quite sure that Berzine is itching to do something about it and can't. Unless he can go alone. Look at these speeds again. We're on a gentle descent, but it's not really a downhill, is it? And we're topping 60 kilometres an hour. These riders are pedaling the highest gear at this point, and pedaling it with great speed too. Look at the cadence. Zaina through. Gone through rather too quickly for Fondriest again. Takes the inside of the bend, but he's having to struggle to get round Zaina. Armstrong right tight on his back wheel. No shortage of work rate coming from Lance Armstrong, the Texan, either. Last year's winner of the Tour du Pont and the stage, his second in his career of riding, the Tour de France. And this year came out fighting in Paris-Nice, the race to the sun. They started to nudge away again. Can you believe this? 37 seconds now they've gone up again. Well, this has been a great breakaway. It's not been really for the nervous out there, because it's been very close to being caught. It's been on a piece of elastic that refuses to snap. There's Fondriest. Armstrong rushes through in a big scurry, followed by Gonchenkov, then Didier Roos. Colombo, Zaina. Mauro Gianetti, and then tucking in on the back of the line there shortly will be Fondriest. Back to the chasers. Still Festina. That was Laurent Dufaux who was on the front, just taking them round the corner. Here's Axel Merckx, looking real nicely relaxed. He just keeps annoying them by dropping his bike into the line whenever he can, just to slow down the rhythm. The long, tall Axel Merckx, not quite the same shape as his father was. His father's also tall, but a lot of bulk on his father as well. Certainly now, if Eddie will excuse me, but he does enjoy the odd beer or two. But he loves following the sport. A man who enjoyed it to the full as a bike rider and has continued to do so since. Very much a part of the cycling scene, no question of leaving the sport in Eddie Merckx's mind. Has his own bicycle factory as well, attached to his house, just on the outskirts of Vilvoorde, near the airport in Brussels. Well, a little bit disheartening for these riders from Festina. Once seem to have given up the ghost. They've dropped it back from the front now, because there's a lot of teammates up here who are doing a great job breaking up the rhythm, and never more were they needed, because this breakaway has been caught and not caught. It's been as close as that. We're heading up towards the Côte de Ben Ahin, and it's well, it's 44 now, it's 43, but still that elastic has not found its final braking strain yet. They've called back in the service car. You saw it waiting on the road, so that's going to be a little booster for the breakaway. When they see the service car go back in behind them, it means they've started to improve again. 3, 6, 7. All huddled together for survival in this case. The reason fish shoal up is so they don't get eaten by predators. And that seems to be a fitting remark today to make about this group of 7, because the predators are not far behind. Côte d'Ain, not very far up the road, still trying to get on terms here. Laurent Dufaux looks over for more help, on its way. The rider relieving him was Jean-Cyril Robin, who was a world junior record holder when a junior cyclist before he became a pro. And heading now down towards the finish at Huy. Armstrong still looking as though he's quite relaxed and content with the situation. He's never showed any signs of panic despite the proximity of the field. Just pulling his weight nicely. Didier Rousse goes past. The relaxed style of Gonchenkov. Now Zaina. Zaina in no hurry to do his turn now. Lets Armstrong take his place as the chase continues at the front, being put to the force by Dufaux. And always willing to help, Michele Coppolillo. Great turn of speed by Coppolillo. But it's the same names from these teams that are left up here to do the chase, indicating there aren't too many boys left with the impetus now. There's Felix Garcia Casas. And now we see the flick of the old left arm there, calling to, in this case, Robin. And as we watch these pictures, I'm actually listening also to a conversation from Roger Liege in the Gant team car, talking to French television here, and telling the French television commentators just how good Didier Rousse is riding at the moment, having, despite working so hard for Chris Bourban in the Criterium International, he also managed to beat Chris in the time trial. Chris went on to become the first English-speaking winner, by the way, of that event. And now we can see if Didier Rousse, Chris Bourban not riding today, he's not quite recovered from a slight injury, whether Didier Rousse can deliver the goods today. He's down there in that breakaway. There he is in the white jersey of Gant. Roger Liege, who's stayed loyal to the sport as well, produced teams year in, year out. He's had some bad luck when Greg LeMond raced for him on the Z team. Signed that huge contract of $5.5 million, and in the first year of it, up popped Greg with a victory in the Tour de France. But Liege has not had a great deal of success, despite the success obviously with Greg LeMond. But this year it seems to me as though he's going to have a great year. And the Gant team, the only automatic French qualifiers for the Tour de France, which is a little bit sad for the French nationals this year. Now stomping on towards the climb of the Côte d'Ain. Gonchenkov moves over, takes a little look at Colombo, no problem. Straight through and off comes the Didier Rousse, followed by Maurizio Fondriest. The line for the moment has lost a little bit of its organisation. It's coming back now. Fondriest goes through and off, but you know, he is not riding that well. He struggles to get over the top of the riders who are setting the pace. Ginetti looks good. Back here with the bunch now, and you can see the face of Axel Merckx. He's got complete control, so too is the Gant rider behind. And then we've got Perron. Now we've got an attack here by Gonchenkov, I think. Gonchenkov has gone. Armstrong has sprinted across the gap to join him. Look at the pedal revs now of Alexander Gonchenkov here on the Côte d'Ain, which is 190 kilometres covered. He looks over his shoulder. He sees Armstrong's with him. Armstrong looks over his shoulder. He sees he's got the gap. Now, I felt that there had to be a move come on this climb. There's no more climbs left till the finishing climb of the Mur de Huy now. And Armstrong continues to kick and ride here. There's Gonchenkov, the man who started it all. This is a very, very good move. Armstrong spotted Gonchenkov. Somebody else has joined on. Oh, it's saying it's all of them. Colombo, Roos. No, it's not all of them. And it's true, you see, Fondries is in trouble on the climb. The other man missing, Ginetti and Zaina. So 3 riders detached at the moment, but I think the power's turned off. Armstrong hasn't turned it off, he's continuing. Didier Roux follows. Colombo looks across at Gonchenkov. They've hesitated. Now we have 2 new leaders heading up towards the summit of the climb. Armstrong and Didier Roux. Now that could be a mistake by the other 2. Armstrong keeps the rhythm up. Doesn't even bother to wait for any help yet from Didier Roux. And it's a good gap. Armstrong now willing to take the pace from Didier Roux. He joins his back wheel. And he continues to concentrate. Those big legs of Lance Armstrong pushing those pedals around rapidly now. Go on, there's a counter-attack coming. Here comes the move that should close it down. It's Ginetti followed by Gonchenkov. Fondries is really in a little bit of trouble here. This is Jojo Furlan and Rouet. Brochard. They've fractured the field here. Again, Axel Merckx trying to break them up. Here he is. And Andrea Perron just ahead of him. So there are still riders, despite that split, content to foil the counter-attack. Now let's get back to the leaders, because here they are, and they are still clear. Didier Roux followed by Lance Armstrong. Ginetti has tried to get across. Roux wants Armstrong to come through. But if he wanted to come through, he should ease off the pedals a little bit. Armstrong having none of it. He'll wait till he eases before he counters. Well, this is a commitment now by these 2. They made the attack on that climb, I think, because they were a little bit unsure about whether that peloton was going to get back. Let's hope that they haven't gone too soon. Over the top of the Côte d'Ain. We're now just over 10 kilometres from the finish. But of course it's those last couple of kilometres which will really hurt. The very steep climb in the Mer de Puy. Armstrong and Didier Roux. America versus France. No American has ever won what we will refer to as the Spring Classics. And Didier Roux has never really had a big win. 34th in 1994, Didier. Didn't ride last year. But he's having his best season. We must not forget that. There's Lance's results, 36th and 22nd, the last 2 attempts. Laurent Brochard still trying to get the Festinas back into the race here. And Brochard has gone clear on his own. So he's got very good form. And it looks like he's fed up and trying to bridge the gap and be spoiled by the tactics of Gann and Motorola. He's now going to try and cross the gap on his own. Laurent Brochard. Inside 10 to go now. Inside 6 miles to the finish. Didier Roux. Turned professional at the end of 1992. And then in his first year as a pro, he rode the Open Tour de l'Avenir, where he finished 4th overall. 19 seconds the gap back to the 5 they left. He's only ever had 1 win since turning pro, Didier Roux, but my goodness me, until this year that is. But he really has now turned the corner, I think. Takes a while for some riders to settle into the world of professional bike racing. It also depends on your status on the team as to how much chance you will actually get to win a race. Well, in Olympic year, we think back to how the 4 years since the last Olympics have changed for Lance Armstrong. A poor ride in Barcelona, a poor ride by his standards, put him on the brink of giving up the sport of bicycle racing. And then he turns professional, finishes last in San Sebastian. Last year he won that race, and of course he's since been the world champion, the American champion, 2 stages of the Tour de France. He is now simply one of the world's top riders, and he's put himself into a great move here that could give him the biggest classic win to date for him. These 5 riders, I don't think they'll come back to the 2 leaders, but there is always a danger that the bunch will come back. 52 seconds to Brochard. I guess that puts the main field now outside a minute. This is beginning to look very, very good for these 2. Now, under normal circumstances, I wouldn't worry about Lance beating Didier Rousse, but we do have the climb on this occasion. Here's the fast-charging Laurent Brochard. Will he get across to at least the 5 chasers? 31st last year. He's done well to slip the field, and because he's gone, of course, the Festina team will have backed off the chase now. It'll all be left to MG. Now that's the sort of road he doesn't want to see. Nobody ahead of him. It's a little bit depressing at this stage of Fleche Wallonne with only 6 kilometres left to go. Head down, a little sly glance underneath to see if anybody's coming up, and at the moment they're not. He got off to a good start this year. 2 top performances in the first 2 rounds of the World Cup. Laurent Brochard 9th in Milan-San Remo, followed that up with a very, very good 7th place in the Tour of Flanders. And at the moment he's riding on the road on 8th place in Fleche Wallonne. So he'll be picking up world ranking points as we look down on the descent here, winding the way down to the valley road to race along the river before they go up towards the top of Huy. Armstrong in the lead. Sharp turn here. And Lance Armstrong seems to be prepared to make the pace down the hills and see the corners first. Back to Laurent Brochard. This is where the interest lies for the moment for French cameramen, or Belgian cameramen as we are in this case. His chase is on and he's slowly closing in on those other riders. But these riders here are pulling away just a little bit. Out goes the old arm again. Now the 25 seconds to Colombo, a minute 2 to Brochard. So nobody's going nowhere fast at the moment. I don't think Brochard at this speed is going to catch up with those 5, and in turn those 5 are not going to see these 2 again till the finish. And we're going to look at the 2 riders now who are going to fight out Fleche Wallonne. A question of, I think, who will win. Surely the odds are on Lance Armstrong here. Lance seems to ride a very low saddle as his legs hardly straighten at all there. Stretches his back just a little bit, but he doesn't look to be in any trouble at all. I think Armstrong's feeling absolutely great inside today. Rushes through. Didier, no problem in taking his wheel. He too is feeling on great form. Those days when the world seems completely controllable, when you have that wonderful feeling of top form, you can beat anybody. Big effort by Lance, and an immediate easing, and through comes Didier Rousse, and then catch the wheel. And a little bit of an effort to catch the wheel because Didier isn't slowing down at all. Short turns as well, these riders doing. They're keeping a very high speed up. I don't think there's any doubt now we're going to annihilate the old record for Fleche Wallonne. Back to the group, Colombo. winner of Milan San Remo, and he drops back from the line as Mauro Gianetti takes it through. Followed by Fondriest. Then Colombo back in. So what's happened to Gonchenkov? The two leaders nowhere to be seen. Just a motorbike up there in the distance, but they're not with the leaders. And Gonchenkov following the wheel of Zaina, so he must have decided to make Zaina come through in the line. These little rolling climbs now before we finally get down to the basement, into the town of Huy, and then start the climb up to the finish. Armstrong easing back. 3 kilometers to go now. Oh, Didier Roos, he lost Paris Camembert because he was alongside Adriano Baffi, a top sprinter. Tough finish too, Paris Camembert. Now he's in a breakaway again, and he's alongside another man who can handle himself in the sprint, Lance Armstrong. Certainly no big turns being done by those two. They're going through, holding the pace and dropping back. Armstrong, rather Fondriest here. Seems to recover a little bit and more anxious to put some weight behind the chase than he was earlier. 56 kilometers an hour. Well, I think it'll be an awful long time before we see a race as quick as this again. I remember commentating on Milan San Remo when Gianni Bugno won it at record speed after quite a nice breakaway coming up towards the finish. Now we're doing the same here on Fleche Wallonne, but it's not quite as clear cut as to who the winner will be here. Bugno was on his own. A couple of kilometers to go. There would normally be a lot of nervous reaction in this group if it was a flat finish, but of course they both know they've got to keep the race up to the finish, which is on the wall. It's only 1 kilometer just over to go now, so they're going to make a turn onto the wall very shortly, and Didier Roos, I think, is going to be the first man to make it. There's the kilometer kite, and the turn is straight ahead of them. Armstrong is going to force, or at least allow Didier Roos the right turn first. This is a nasty little climb. There's the chase group being led by Colombo. Onto the climb now. Roos wants Armstrong to come through. Armstrong is quite willing. Just round this next corner is where the hill really begins to bite. And Roos is holding the side of Armstrong now, expecting something to come from him. There's the maximum 20% in the middle, just before, well, just after the middle and before we get to the line, in fact. And Roos now dropping back just momentarily, but he won't take the wheel of Armstrong. He wants to see what he's doing. And now we've still got the two teammates here, Roslotto, but they're not doing anything either right now. Now we got Armstrong right behind Didier Roos. Armstrong looks to me as though he's building up for something. Armstrong still sitting in behind Didier Roos. Now Roos looks to me as though he's overdone it here. I think his enthusiasm has played too big a part. He really shouldn't have done quite so much work on this climb. He's now in and out of the saddle. And perhaps he's got the confidence, perhaps he thinks Armstrong hasn't got the strength. This is the steep bit now where you have to get in and grind your way up to the summit. Armstrong climbs behind him, the crowd on the Huy here. A Frenchman leads an American. An American has never won this race. Armstrong moves to the right and gives it everything. Armstrong goes, and I don't think Roux has an answer to that. Didier Roux just took one look to his right and thought, there's no way I can get the wheel of Armstrong. This is 110% now from the American. A brilliant race today for both of them, but there has to be a winner, and it's going to be Lance Armstrong. Armstrong just riding up this hill now as if it were flat. Super huge crowd here as he races towards the top of the Huy. He'll keep the pressure on all the way to make sure he has drilled that man into the ground into second place. Colombo here trying to go clear as well. Not trying, but is going clear. Chased by Gianetti, then by Fondriest and Gonchenkov. Lance Armstrong, the Lone Ranger, comes up the climb to win the Fleche Wallonne. There's nobody going to stop him now. Is this man on the start of his greatest ever season, and it's going to take some beating of the year he won the world title, but he's having a wonderful year now, and he gets his first win of the season. What a race to choose. Fleche Wallonne, Lance Armstrong takes it clearly on the line. Didier Roux continues his great season as well with another second place in a top semi-classic event. About 8 seconds down there for Didier Roux. Now the race for third place as we watch the field start the climb, but they're still out of it, but they've never been really out of it, have they? Fondriest, this man who won it 2 years ago, has found the legs to go away on the finishing climb and is going to get third place for sure. He's being chased by Gianetti. It looks as though Colombo has hit the wall, quite literally, because he's now zigzagging, hoping to hold on to fifth place. Fondriest is going to get third. That's a big effort by Maurizio. He's not had a good day, but it just shows you if you suffer, you get something out of it. Fourth, Mauro Gianetti. Fifth, Gabriella Colombo, who tried the attack at the bottom, but the legs wouldn't keep going to the top. Enrico Zaina comes in sixth place. And then behind will be Gonchenkov, and he's the last of the breakaway. Let's have a look how it all happened. There's the attack. Lance never panicked on this climb. He waited until Didier Roux cooked himself, then laid off by a length, shot across the road to the right and gave it 110%. And for the moment he made the move, Didier knew he had lost this race. Always the check over the shoulder first to make sure that he hasn't had a resurgence in life before you make ready for the finish. And I bet you Lance Armstrong ranks that as one of his best. And on the finishing line now with Lance is Paul Sherwin.
Very good tactical ride today. Was it also not only a tactical ride, a win, but a physical win for you?
Well, of course like this is always very physical, but I always thought this race suited me, and last year I felt good and I didn't ride a tactical race, a good tactical race. So today that was my main objective, is to ride the race smart, and I felt like I've had the legs to win in the past, and if I rode smart I could win today.
Well, you're a little bit worried there because you come up against the French riders quite often and you end up with second place, and there was a French rider there with you at the end.
It's 5 times I was second this year, and every time it was, not every time, but 4 out of 5 it was to the same guy. So Didier Roux is good friends with Jalabert, so I thought maybe it's something in the air around there where they live, but I don't know. I was super motivated. I didn't want to be second.
You've just broken 2 records today. First, you're the first American to ever win the Fleche Wallonne, but you've also become the youngest rider ever to win the race at the top of the Mur de Huy.
Well, one surprises me and one doesn't. But it's always good to win, whether you're the youngest or the oldest. In this sport, you have to take them when you can get them, so I'm happy.
I bet you are, Lance. What a great victory that was. Not so happy Didier Roux, because that's another second place for him, but I think very happy Maurizio Fondriest, who got third today. So a win for Lance Armstrong, Didier Roux second, Maurizio Fondriest third, Mario Gianetti fourth. Let's find out now what happens in Liege Bastogne Liege. And in our Ardennes weekend special package, let's now catch up with the 82nd Liege Bastogne Liege. 263 kilometres this race was, or 157 miles. 12 climbs as always, the majority of the climbs coming once the riders have turned at the bottom end of the course of Bastongne, which is done already. And now we're heading back up towards the finish. And this is always a tough race, one they always want to win, of course, because they say it is arguably the hardest of all the classics. It's certainly the oldest of the current classics, and they call it for that reason La Doyenne. And we're now looking here of Coppolillo on the attack. Just to run you down the overall situation, going out from the beginning, the first climb was won by Chris Gerritz out on the Côte de Saint-Roch. Then followed on the second climb, the Côte de Mormont, Damien Nazon, who rides for Benesto, but he was lying an early leader and second two-stage wins in the Tour of China last year, which was the first ever Tour of China. That's where we first saw him, a very good, useful sprinter. Andrea Perron for Motorola won the climb of the Côte de One, followed over by Lance Armstrong and Evgeny Berzin. That was where the big hitters started to show themselves. And now we've got Coppolillo out here. And in this group here, number 74 is Laurent Madouas for Motorola. But there's nobody really broke the file of the big field yet, although this little group trying to get clear. And Abraham Olano, the world champion, is up there as well. Laurent Brochard, the rider who finished 8th in the Fleche Wallonne, and a hand up there at the front. And this is Lance Armstrong requiring a little bit of advice from the back as the world champion goes through. Abraham Olano and Laurent Madouas, Brochard. And looking across there to see what all the problem is about is Pascal Richard of the MG team. Pascal Richard, former King of the Mountains, a couple of years ago in the Tour of Italy. He's won the Tour of Spain, he's twice won the Tour of Romandy. Pro for 11 years, which incidentally is the same as Mauro Gianetti has been a pro. Now, Madouas is waiting because whatever the problem, I think Armstrong has actually got a bicycle problem here and he's called for a wheel change. Now, let's have a look and see if we can pick this up on the cameras, because I think the group has come back anyway, or at least a large portion of the group has come back. There, down below, is one of the riders, and that's Coppolillo. Coppolillo is still out in front, while the group behind has turned off completely here at the moment. And here they come, Armstrong being brought back up to the pack. Madouas just checking to see everything is all right. Axel Merckx is the man who's brought him back into the race. Claudio Chiappucci there's number 81. And so, as smooth as you like, the team captain has been brought back into the main group in Liege Bastogne Liege. Confidence today of Armstrong. 4 days ago, winner of Fleche Wallonne. And there's the rider who made sure he got safely back in, Axel Merckx. Motorola are having a great couple of days of classic racing down here in the Ardennes. Now they're sent through this, the neutral service car has gone straight by there. I don't know whether the general regrouping forming at the back. David Rebellin is the rider in the Polti colours, the yellow jersey going through. A lot of people are tipping Rebellin for a great season this year. And this group has really come back basically together here. The Motorola boys seem to be in control right now. They've got themselves, all three of them, at the front and keeping a tight control on affairs. Pedalling strongly at the back there is Fabio Fontanelli, another rider who's having a great season. 6 wins under his belt already. Claudio Chiappucci, Rolf Sorensen on the right of our picture there. And Gabriele Colombo. Number 7 here is David Rebellin. And number 111 is Richard Virenque, who had a long breakaway in the Fleche, but he got brought back. And there's about 17 riders in this group now, and we've done something like 215 kilometres. Coppolillo has been the man to top the 3 climbs ahead so far, the Côte de Haute-Levée, the Côte de Rossier and the Côte de la Vecchie at 209 kilometres. Now we've got Olano here trying to launch an attack down below there. The world champion. Laurent Brochard is the rider with him. This is the leader, Michele Coppolillo, and he's having another good season too. He started off well with the stage 5 win in the Tour of the Mediterranean, his only win of the season, but he finished 4th overall in Tirreno Adriatico, and a great 3rd place finish for him in Milan San Remo, and he was 2nd behind Chris Boorman in the Criterium International. So he's a danger man and could well carry off this race given his head. Well, the riders know it, and the world champion knows it, and the world champion trying to do something about it down there. Not getting a lot of help from this breakaway. This breakaway that's built up to some 17 men has become a little unruly. Coppolillo has gone on a long way to picking up the prize for the King of the Mountains today, or the King of the Hills. And with Armstrong and Gianetti in this leading group, I think Gianetti's here, then we have a good battle going on there for the cumulative of the two races, the Fleche and the Liege Bastogne Liege, because there is a big prize for the winner of the so-called weekend. And somebody's put in a great attack at the front there, and it looks as though we've got, in fact, attack being launched at the front. We've got 4 riders trying to go clear. There was a sense that 17-strong breakaway was becoming a little bit unmanageable, so now they're trying to thin it down. A lot of head turning going on here to see if it's worth continuing with the pressure. And it looks like the long legs of Axel Merckx, or is it Laurent Madouas? No, it's Axel Merckx. Rolf Sorensen goes through and helps him. And the other rider up here with them, number 116, is Pascal Hervé of Festina. Now this could be another decision being made here as riders continually get off the front. They don't like this group at all. It's good to see Axel Merckx getting mixed in with this. Two riders going clear, small group reforming behind. Alano, the last man to tag on there. And Sorensen is going to go. Sorensen takes a look over his shoulder. He passes last year's winner, Mauro Gianetti. He's tempting people to come and join him here. He doesn't want to go alone just yet. But these counterattacks must be causing a problem with the overall lead. Pascal Hervé comes up. And number 37 there is Pascal Richard. And it looks as though they've all scrambled the way back on. Well, we'll shortly be going down into Remuchon, and that's the gateway to the climb of the La Redoute, which is a very steep climb, guaranteed to have great crowds. Back up with the leader now, Coppolillo, who's unaware of all the attacking, the counter-attacking which is going on behind him. But if they get it underway, then I think they'll pick him up. He's done a good ride to stay away from this race for so long today, Coppolillo. But he's got the benefit of the form he knows he has. And it's always a good chance to have a go early on, because the shadow boxing can often give you the breakaway you require to win the day. He's still got the climb of the Côte de la Redoute to come, the Côte de Ornay, and a new côte in the race this year, the Côte de Sartillemont, which replaces the Côte des Forges, out of the race this year because I believe it's got some roadworks on it. This is the beautiful town of Remuchon. I once was based here for about 5 days, and it was a great period 4 years ago. And there's the breakaway sneaking across the main street and then running down alongside the river, turning into a very narrow cobbled road, and then a sharp right under the motorway bridge, and then you're on the climb of La Redoute. And you can see the crowd from a long way off, lining it right to the summit. Not a pretty sight, especially if you're in the lead, as Coppolillo is here in Liege Bastogne Liege, because of course you know it's a tough climb to the top, and the field are in fact closing in, or at least that breakaway is. Coppolillo keeping the pressure on. Yet another Italian who's flying the flag high and sure. He'll make a sharp right at the end of the road here. This is very much a holiday area of the Ardennes, and a great base. Not a bad fishing river, by the way, either, that. If you like a spot of fishing for trout. And now we see this is the group again. It seems to have reformed, so they're waiting now for what will surely be a showdown on the climb of La Redoute. Nobody yet willing to split up the field at this point. But the hill will probably do it. It starts very gently once you cross underneath a main road bridge, which we'll probably see. It's a very straight climb at first, just a chance to remind yourselves how hard it's going to be, and then you turn left. And this is where we are now with the leader, as Michele Coppolillo starts now to climb almost parallel here. You can see the cars on the right parked. Well, they're actually on a freeway, where of course it's illegal to park, but we are in Belgium and we are watching one of the world's great classic races, so today I guess they'll turn a blind eye. There they all are, parked while the race goes by. That's the main road which goes down through Liège and onwards, or you can go the other way back to Brussels and onwards to Ghent. And there's the crowd I was referring to, and there's a fit man on the right. Well, he's didn't stay too long. But Coppolillo here is still riding very, very well indeed, despite the chase that's going on behind him. He knows now he must conserve his lead at the top here, because this is where they're going to put in the first move to try and bring him back. What a really tough climb this is, and there's still a kilometre to go of La Redoute. And there is Rolf Sorensen just hanging on to the back of the group here. And the group are keeping surprisingly well together on the climb. Looks like Pascal Hervé setting the pace at the front. Armstrong, Madouas and Axel Merckx are all here and riding right up at the front today. These three men have come together in the Motorola team this year, the two newcomers, Merckx and Madouas, now showing their real strength, and this is going to give Armstrong a lot of support as the three of them get to the front on the big climb of the day, La Redoute. Into the steep section now, and Coppolillo is riding absolutely superbly today, and I have to say the crowd very orderly indeed here. Now the bunch coming up. And Coppolillo counting his pedal strokes as he climbs slowly to the summit of La Redoute. And keeping his rhythm nicely going. Not breaking it at all. The road will level out very shortly. That's the good news. Here comes the pack. They're not very far behind at all now on this climb. And the back of the field beginning to break up completely. The Carrera rider there, Enrico Zaina, who's dropped off the back. As a little bit of pressure goes on the front as the hill does begin to tell now. But the three Motorola riders are still in the centre of that group there. Now I wonder if we can actually see the leader. And there he is, just to the right of our picture, so they've almost got him. Brochard has blown as well with Zaina. In fact, the back end has gone completely on this break. As the race continues at the front, we now know that we are picking up Michele Coppolillo, and the strongmen in the chase group will know it also. Crowd a little bit thinner here because you don't get such a good view of the climb up from the valley at this point on the climb. That's why you can see them coming right out from down at Remrichon, from lower down the slopes. And there's a problem for Coppolillo as we come towards the top of La Redoute. Whatever it was, a slip gear, a jam train, as the last year's winner, Mauro Gianetti, goes through. Now this was La Redoute 4 years ago, and I had the privilege of making a video with the Motorola team, and we climbed La Redoute as preparation for Liege Bastogne Liege. Well, I think I made a mistake. I was some way behind as I came up to the camera for the fifth take. I was beginning to think that making this video was not such a good idea. You know, keeping up with these guys in the Motorola team is kind of hard, and so it should be, because after all, they're the best bike riders in the world. Today they've ridden 180 kilometres. We're just 2 days away from Liege Bastogne Liege. This is La Redoute, one of the most famous climbs on this classic, and it comes just before the finish. One more big climb to come called the Côte des Forges. And you know, this hill and the next hill is where the climbers put home the killer instinct. This is where they springboard to victory. And right now we're looking at the man who won 1 year ago, and this is Mauro Gianetti. Will he be springboarding to victory here? This is Pascal Richard who's coming up to him. The two riders who have both been pros for 11 years, and their birthday, by the way, is the same date as well. And they've joined together at the top of the climb. And it looks as though Lance Armstrong has also come across. That is Armstrong, who also has got across. Good piece of riding. Lance has bridged the gap to Mauro Gianetti and Pascal Richard. And the world champion Alano is bringing the field back. Or it's not the field now, it's a small breakaway here. But we've got Alano coming back up. And we've got also there Laurent Madouas. So still there is a teammate around Lance Armstrong. We've got 3, 6, 8 men now trying to get away as we go towards the summit of La Redoute. Now it's a long narrow road over the top here. The riders again will swing right down a narrow track, and you're out of sight for quite a while here. Now let's see what happened here to Coppolillo. His gears slipped terribly there, and he was forced to stop. I think it was just a slip gear. His gear just slipped out of the sprockets. He had no pedal momentum. He's put it back into the gear, back on as Mauro Gianetti goes by him. Well, the gap was 30 seconds at the bottom of the climb, and it was looking like about 10 seconds by the time he came to that stop. But he's been wiped away now. Picked up 3 of the climbs as well, but he's now gone. We've now got 2 Motorola boys here and 2 MG Technogym riders. Well, Pascal Richard has made the split. Tall figure there of Laurent Madouas, always checking where the team captain is, Lance Armstrong, before he applies the tourniquet. This is the right turn off the top of the hill. Quite narrow now. 8 men. They've got the Mavic service car with them. Indication they must have around 30 seconds. The wind pinning the riders over to the right-hand side of the road. And Armstrong has decided to attack. Lance Armstrong has gone, and Madouas has followed his wheel through and shut down. Now that's a move, because Madouas' plan here is to ease the reaction. Mauro Gianetti, last year's winner, inspired again today. Alano takes off after him too. So too Pascal Richard. Now this is a great move by Lance Armstrong. He's so confident now after his victory 4 days ago in Fleche Wallonne. I see Pascal Hervé is still there, Maurizio Fondriest. But Armstrong has tried to set himself up for a lone win here as he starts to move clear of the field. Now that was a good move by Armstrong, and the block was effective as well. This is Axel Merckx with this group here, and he's got Chiappucci. So it looks as though Merckx is also trying to get across here from the remnants of that fine breakaway. The other rider here is David Rebellin. 3 riders trying to bridge across. So we've got Madouas up front, along with Lance Armstrong out front. And now Axel Merckx trying to reach them, taking with him David Rebellin and Claudio Chiappucci. So this is the traditional battle now over the top of La Redoute, where you literally scrabble for wheels and hope to survive. They're coming off the narrow roads and swinging right onto the much nicer roads now as we head towards the Côte d'Aulnay. And Liege Bastogne Liege spread all over the Ardennes hills here. There's the flotilla of motorbikes following the end of what is a long line of riders split up. There's Claudio Chiappucci sitting on the wheel of Axel Merckx, and Merckx would like a little bit of reaction from him. Claudio, no problem, goes through. David Rebellin. They're trying to cross up to the leaders, but not the leaders, I don't think, where Armstrong is. Very difficult now for our cameras to actually cover the race here, because this breakaway is so evenly spread on the road. They're having a job getting between the riders. Here's Gianetti now. He's across here with Armstrong, which means that Pascal Richard also must be here. And I think he's in the shadow to the left of our picture. There he is. So we've now got these three riders clear. Alano never bridged the gap. So Armstrong, Pascal Richard and Mauro Gianetti, last year's winner here again. It is amazing how they can reproduce the form of 1 year on when it really matters. Gianetti had a very good Fleche Wallonne. Now he's hoping to have an excellent Liege Bastogne Liege. Axel Merckx has got across to teammate Laurent Madouas. Fine piece of riding that by Merckx. There's Alano back in this group, which is now becoming quite a solid group here. Chiappucci obviously is also here. Merckx nears the camera. Madouas, Pascal Hervé off to our right. Maurizio Fondriest, number 151 there. 3, 6, 9, 10 riders down in that chase group. Thinned out dramatically on the climb of La Redoute. But I think that the way they're riding now, with two teammates of Motorola in that group, I would think we're more likely to see that lead group succeed. 111 is Richard Virenque. David Rebellin. 116 Pascal Hervé, Maurizio Fondriest. Then we come moving up the line here. Axel Merckx. Fabio Fontinelli. And the rider number 45 there, the ever-present Gabriele Colombo, continuing a good season for him. Well, that's the little chase group, but we'd like to get back to the front, and here we are now back to the front to see what is going on. It's Pascal Richard in the centre, Armstrong follows him, and the other Swiss rider at the front is Mauro Gianetti. Both the riders from Switzerland speak French as their first tongue, although you can speak 3 languages in Switzerland. They have 3 national languages, French, German and Italian. And Pascal Richard speaks fluent Italian. I can't say I know if Gianetti does. And these 3 are really committed now. Now, the younger of all is Lance Armstrong, the confident of them all. Well, it should be Lance Armstrong after his ride in Fleche Wallonne. But Gianetti will feel a little bit more inspired here. He carries the number 1 on his back as last year's winner. And Pascal Richard is a rider who always delivers surprises wherever he goes. Had an excellent career, Pascal, including a World Cyclo-Cross Championship as well, which at the time launched the new Wyman team into being with a fine victory in a cyclo-cross. The same day they announced the team, they had a world champion. Looks as though Pascal was just stretching his leg there. He took his right foot off the cleat. And as a result of that, he's going to have to make his way back up to the group. I don't think he's got a problem. He's a little bit checking the release lever on his front wheel there. Well, not the lever, but the other side. Maybe he's got a... I think, in fact, he's got a problem with the sender on his computer that seems to become unclipped from the wheel. Well, for goodness sake, Pascal, don't try and put it back on while you're going. Otherwise, you may have to scratch your head with the other hand. Anyway, he's coming back. Nice little gaggle of people watching 3 riders go through. None, unfortunately for them, is a Belgian, an American and 2 Swiss heading down towards the finish now, but 2 climbs still ahead of them first. Mauro Gianetti. And so 3 riders in the lead, and we've still got no signs of that breakaway repairing the damage now at all, as they go quite clearly on towards the climb of the Côte d'Ornay. They're doing much longer turns, each of them here, which is a good sign that they want to keep this pace nice and steady without doing any damage. And the 3 riders working well together. This is a good race for them now. They're clear. They've made their decision on La Redoute, and I really think now that, barring bad luck, they're going to find out which one of them will pick up the win in Liege Bastogne Liege. It's somewhere between these 3 for my money, as they now head off towards the next climb. And these three riders now are facing no challenge at all. Spring is still to arrive in the Ardennes, but the riders aren't noticing it. What is most pleasant is the sun has come, and the shadows on the road surface there will be very warming. Richard behind his countryman at least, but his rival. They used to be on the same team, but they no longer are. They're on rival teams now. They both used to be managed by Cochlear, who looked after Greg LeMond at one stage of his career, Andy Hampson, and of course Bernard Hinault. Well, we're going back some 10 years there. Gianetti, birthday the 16th of March 1964, the exact same day as Pascal Richard, and they've both been pros for 11 years. I suppose the better of the two is Richard as far as results go, but you can't deny the fact that Gianetti has also pulled off one or two great race results in his life. Having finished 44th in Liege Bastogne Liege back in 1988, he landed the big win here in 1995. But I would rate one of his finest rides coming in Colombia last year in that dreadfully hard World Championship where he took 4th place. That was a superb performance by him. Down through the trees, Pascal Richard. I told you that earlier that he won the World Championship Cyclocross. Well, that was back in 1988. But his best season was coming in 1994. He scored 14 wins that year, amongst them the Tour of Romandy, a stage in the Tour of Italy, plus the King of the Mountains title. He won the Tour of Switzerland, and he finished 3rd in the classic Tour of Lombardy. So Armstrong has two very talented riders with him up there, and I don't think, looking at the way they're freewheeling in that chase group, they're going to make any impression on them now. Alano, the world champion, steadily improving his form everywhere he rides, and I think he's going to have a great season in the big tours. But Armstrong thinking now his next goal after Liege Bastogne Liege, well, I would think his real goal this year after the Tour du Pont, which I'm sure he'll want to win, will be the Olympic Games. This might be difficult for Lance to work out how he's going to time his form, which is clearly he's got great form right now, it's April. How he's going to time his form to reappear in the month of July end because of the Olympics, as well as having to ride the Tour de France. It's a difficult year for the professionals this year. Armstrong not afraid, never was, to do his share of the work. You very rarely see Lance sit on at the back, always willing to set the pace. And then come the two veterans, Gianetti, Richard. Richard won once a stage in the Tour de France, way back, 1989, at Briançon, or Briançon rather. And that was a good win. He came clear of the field up a long uphill finish in the town. Well, it didn't affect the overall, but it gave him a nice feeling. And they're pushing the motorbikes on, but I don't think there's any danger from behind here. Sharp right turn as we head up now on the Côte d'Ornay. In the region of Tilth now, which for the amateur enthusiasts, they still run. The Liege Bastogne Liege Classic is sort of mirrored in the Tilth Bastogne Tilth Classic, which is for the amateur fun riders. It's not a race, but you wouldn't know that if you ever take part in it, because you seem to race all the way. I've done it once. It's around about 230 kilometers, and it's great fun. This is one of the roads they use. And there's little old Claudio Chiappucci, Il Diablo, sitting at the back, having a good look around. Number 116 is Pascal Hervé, but there's no impetus in this breakaway. And there'll be no complaints about that coming from the two Motorola riders, because they know their man is going to, at worst, finish 3rd. And if truth would have it, I think he's in for the win today. That would be incredible. First American to win Fleche Wallonne. He would become the first American to do the Ardennes double, and, of course, the first American to win Liege Bastogne Liege. Remember, Lance has been 2nd once and 6th. It's a race he loves. Little drink there from Michele Coppolillo as we see an attack by Rolf Sørensen. Coppolillo doing well to hang on in there after his long breakaway, and immediately jumped on Sørensen. No messing about at all. The Motorola boys are well in command here. Laurent, no, it's Axel Merckx. Axel Merckx, who's caught up with the Rabobank man. No effort at all and no working allowed, so he just sits on Sorensen. The group is reforming at the back. On the climb now, Armstrong still trying to keep the working pattern here, dropping back behind Pascal Richard. Even on the climbs, the big chain rings, and 1 minute the gap. Giannetti will be pleased with that. 1 minute for the number one. There's Pascal. Lance has that look of aggression as he rides his bike. He just charges up the hill and makes his bike look as though he's about trying to tear it off the road, even when he's not actually attacking. And off go the spare bottles, 2 bottles off, and 1 comes back on, ready for the last climb and the run into the finish. It's uphill 2 to the finish at Anse, as Lance knows only too well. Well, very soon now there'll be no more drinks allowed. We're heading down into the closing kilometres of the race. Hervé sitting at the back. Well, they're also on the climb, but they're a long way down it, and there's really no action at all from that group. It is not... it's almost as if they've accepted the fact that with these 3 names away, they've lost the race. There's no reaction coming from them at all. And as we look down on the 3 leaders and the flotilla of cars and press cars who've got in there, I would have thought that's an indication the gap has gone slightly more than 1 minute now. Moving across nicely. All riders riding identically at the moment. The hands relaxed on the centre of the bars. Then Armstrong just kicks out of the saddle to latch onto the wheel of Richard. It is quite amazing how the parallel of those 2 riders, Giannetti and Richard, have gone, because I told you earlier that Giannetti has finished 4th in last year's World Championship in Colombo. Well, guess where Pascal Richard finished? He was 5th. And this is, I think, Fondriest now, who's trying to break up this field. He's having enough of this. He knows we've got to react and do something about it. Fondriest now, who used to be a man for the Ardennes, is now giving this one big solid effort here, and he's going to keep it going until he's caused a crack in that bunch, and then he'll look for somebody to give him a hand. Well, tagged on the back, he's got Motorola, and I think it's Madouas. So he won't be getting a hand from him. David Rebellin is here, the little paltry rider. And I think the Gavis rider must be Colombo. We'll get a look when we get a chance, but right now Fondriest is going to continue the pressure here. Tolano's there. And we've gone back up to the leaders. Olano was actually the rider right behind Maurizio Fondriest, as Armstrong now continues to put the pressure on a little bit, perhaps a tester, just to see what the reaction is, and it's good because Pascal Richard's come straight back up and by. Into the trees. These are good roads now to keep out of sight of the riders. There's Olano, who's up behind Fondriest. Then we do have indeed Maurizio Fondriest and David Rebellin. So these are the 4 now in the counter-attack on the Côte d'Ornay. 230 kilometres covered. And it looks as though Madouas is going to be a real find here, and a shrewd signing for this team by Jim Okovitz. A Frenchman coming across from Castorama, which disbanded last year. And Laurent doesn't speak fluent English by any manner or means yet, but he is learning. And he says he's very content riding on this American team, which I have to say is unusual for a Frenchman. They find it very hard to settle in a country that speaks English, or with a team that speaks only English, basically. But he seems to be very happy and has said so in the French press. And he's certainly riding like a star today. He's playing the brilliant teammate here for Armstrong. And if he stays in this group, of course, he's going to give the team a great starter. We just need Axel Merckx to land a big one. I say we, I shouldn't really. But Axel Merckx get a high finish as well, and they could carry off the team award today, and I don't believe they've ever done that in any World Cup event before. And that's on the cards right now. Back up to the leaders. Here comes Armstrong. Gianetti right behind him. No signs of anybody being weak in this group at the moment. And there'll be constant testing on this climb by riders, little accelerations just to see how the reactions are. There's Armstrong, his face telling us nothing. So in the break in Fleche Wallonne, and now in the break again in Liege. Once over the top of this climb, we're on our way down to the next climb. It comes pretty soon afterwards, about 12 kilometers down the road. We'll start the climb of the Côte de Sarthe-Tillemont, and then we're heading up to the finish. And there's the summit. And Armstrong's had quite a few points around the climbs today, so he's not going to be far off being the king of the mountains. He's been scoring regularly. He was third on the Côte de Stocco, he was third on the Côte de Aizemont, he was second on the Côte de Wallonne, and then later on he was third on the Côte de la Veque, second up the La Redoute, and now we're on the Côte de Ornay, and he's going to score again here. So Armstrong must be well in the hunt there for the King of the Mountains title, or the King of the Côtes title. But what's going on here is an attack here. Now this is amazing. Laurent Madouas must have sensed something here, because he's launched an attack of his own. Now normally he wouldn't do that to damage the lead or a teammate, but he must have sensed he was going better than anybody, and he's got clear on his own. And my goodness me, he's got clear on the climb of the Côte de Ornay. Madouas going clear now, which will make a very sweet result indeed if this happens. There's Gianetti having a little bit of coaching on the roadside for the #1 rider. Well, it's not as if he doesn't know the finish, but I think it'd be more a tip of how to cope with these two riders. He knows Pascal Richard inside out, and he's had experience of Lance Armstrong as well. And again, Richard has found his form at the right time. Now coming up towards the top of the Côte here. Armstrong was first over the top, and now it's another Motorola rider who's going to get fourth behind the rest. Or ahead of the rest and behind the three leaders, perhaps, is the better way to put it, because now Madouas is trying to force an advantage here. He's still got quite a lot of work, though, to do to get across to this breakaway. The gap is still over a minute to Madouas, and a few seconds more to the chasers. But in two classic races, we have seen Motorola just become one of the best teams on the circuit. Jim Okovic has never been so busy. He's been up and down to the breaks for the last two events now, Fleche Wallonne and now here. He knows also he's got his hands full, because he's got two riders right behind him, Merckx and Madouas, and a real chance they'll lift the team prize today. Pace up to over 70k an hour, is it? No, just underneath 70 kilometers an hour. Plenty of drive left on these riders. And now we've had all three team managers up here. One will not be outdone by the other. Have you ever noticed that? Because it's all psychological. All three riders now know the situation behind. They'll know that Madouas is chasing, and Jim Okovic, I think, shouted those words to Lance. Well, there'll be no question of waiting for him. They couldn't take that sort of a risk. But it's good news to know that another Motorola rider has been let loose on the road. The miles ticking away. 235 done now. I wonder if any of these two riders yet have started to sense who might be the weakest. there's nothing being given away at all here from what we can see as we watch the race. They all look pretty good. Armstrong, the winner last year of San Sebastian Classic, has now got the Fleche Wallonne under his belt. Is he heading for his second World Cup event? And what a great race to get on your honours. Liege Bastogne Liege, the oldest of them all on the circuit. The oldest race, by the way, is Paris-Rouen, which is an amateur race these days. And the big old classics, Bordeaux-Paris and Paris-Brest-Paris, unfortunately now gone, although Paris-Brest-Paris is still ridden by the tourist routier, the cyclists who do it for fun. Some way of having fun, eh? It's a long way, 600 kilometers plus. Rolf Sorensen, he's had a very up and a down day. He keeps on contacting the groups, he keeps on trying to break them up, but no answer. Now we've marked again because this looks as though we've got a little group come up here. David Rebellin, and it looks to me as though we've got Axel Merckx, Rolf Sorensen, David Rebellin, and I think it's Richard Verrenk who's also tucked in at the end there, which means now that these are riding behind Laurent Madouas on the road, and again Motorola's put a man in the move. This is superb riding by Motorola today. They've very definitely got the top three in the front running now, and if they finish like this, they'll walk the team prize, and that's going to lift them right up in the team race overall to probably the top 2 or 3 positions. There is the city of Liège, and the river you see, the river Mars or Meuse, depends on which side of the border you're on, because it runs straight through Liège into Holland. It's the Meuse down there in Liège. It becomes the river Maas once we go into Holland. Very nice city, an interesting city. We go into the city and then climb to the suburb of Arns. Uphill finish. And it looks as though we're on to the suburbs now, as the riders are heading round across the river bridges here in the centre of Liège, and then we'll start the climb up towards the finish. Little bit of cobbles, just to remind everybody we're still in Belgium. And Pascal Richard heading up towards the climb, and this man is a good climber, king of the mountain in the Tour of Italy a couple of years back. Armstrong, king of the mountain in the Tour de l'Avenir he was in his first year as a pro, and he always laughs at that because there weren't any real mountains in the Tour de l'Avenir. And behind him, Mauro Gianetti. Now, the two riders at the back, friends, ex-teammates, birthdays on the same date, against an American, all on rival teams, so they all want the victory. They're now going to have to plan how they do it. Sweeping across the streets of Liège, roads that they all three of them know very well indeed. They know they've got just over a minute on Madouas, and not much more than that back to the chase group. And the race completely split up. And there's not a lot of riders left in this race either. Fewer than 60 still on the course. The streets are narrow, ideal for surprise attack, but not just yet because the roads are too straight. Armstrong in at the kill for the third year in succession in Liege Bastogne Liege. Second and sixth the last 2 years. Now can he make the top slot? Looks over to see the whereabouts of Gianetti. Climb will start, and then once over the top, it's a little ride to the finish of around about 1 kilometre plus. Armstrong setting the pace. The last shower for Pascal Richard, probably before the bottle goes back into his cage. I thought he was going to throw it away. And now, no work from Pascal. Armstrong, having none of it, swings right out of the line and looks over to him and says, after you, sir. Leaving Gianetti to keep the pace going. Superb breakaway by these three today, and again this race producing the strong men at the front. It was a tough ride. There was no easy bit on this course once more. Coppolillo set a real tough pace, and if you didn't have the strength to cross the gap on the climb of La Redoute, then you weren't going to make the selection. But these three, well, they proved to us they had the strength. Now, which one is going to be the strongest on the final little hill? Will they go on the hill, or will they wait for the sprint? In the sprint, Armstrong surely's got a good chance. I'd certainly be more worried about Richard than Gianetti. Richard has a nasty habit of pulling off some great results. Richard not really putting his power in the bike now, as he just keeps over to the left of the road, looks across, lets Armstrong come by. Gianetti doesn't want to come by now. Now we're starting the cat and mouse. Remember that Laurent Madouas is only a minute behind and could close if they keep this up. There'll be no cat and mouse with Madouas. He's going like a greyhound because he's being chased at the moment by four riders, and it wasn't Virenque, it would be Fontanelli, Rebellin, Merckx is there, and it could have been Virenque, but we'll see when they come up to the sprint. But there's four riders chasing anyway. Onto the cobblestones, and the climb will start. And is there an attack? No. An acceleration certainly for Pascal Richard. Armstrong in a good position to have seen that. That may be why Pascal didn't persist. But Gianetti thought he was going. He moved across to the left of the road. Gianetti looks at this point to be as though he might be in a spot of bother here. Richard has spotted it. He's going to test him. And immediately Gianetti gets back up. Richard has seen it, and he's not going to push home any attack. Armstrong right on him, watched every move. Armstrong following Pascal Richard. As always, when three riders have given their all and not shirked any of the duty, you'd like all three to win, but of course that's not possible. There's only one of them can win. Armstrong carries the weight of America. The first American to do the double, to win both the Fleche and Liege, would be an incredible result. The fact he is here in this breakaway will give him the Ardennes weekend, so he'll win a few $1,000s for that award. And he scored enough points to also win the King of the Coats competition. So it's been a very lucrative day out for Lance Armstrong, and that's before he gets a shot at the win. Now Richard gone. Now this is the move we expect from Pascal. He's gone with a turn of speed, but Armstrong has spotted it, gone straight after him. Left wanting a little bit Mauro Gianetti, but he's going to come back because Richard is shut down. Now we're heading for the line now. Pascal Richard is right where Lance Armstrong wants him, at the head of the line. Watch out for Gianetti at the back. I think he needs a little bit more fuel in those legs, but you never can tell. Richard now takes a good look at the face of both of them just to see, and he's looking over the shoulder of Gianetti to see if there's any sign of Laurent Madouas. And our cameras never having picked up Madouas since he escaped, so I can only assume that we've lost a moto during the last while of the coverage, because we haven't seen much of the chase group at all. Armstrong, I'm not sure that's where Lance needs to be at this stage. Followed by Richard, and then Gianetti, who hasn't contributed since the climb started. He's only watched the wheels and made sure he followed the attacks, such as they've been. Now watch out, because Pascal Richard's come through on the inside of Armstrong. Armstrong straight onto him. Much closer order too from Mauro. And the shadows are on the right of the road. It might be worth noting that with the sun, because that's something to watch for, but the way the angle of the sun means you're going to see the rider before the shadow today. Slowing right down. Madouas will be closing in if they keep this up. Richard does not want the lead now. We're getting very, very close to the finish here. There's the long straight road ahead with the gentle incline. It's almost as if each rider, apart from Gianetti, are just tempting the rest. Armstrong goes forward. It's almost as though he invites Richard to come up alongside him. Richard does the same thing. Now the gentle incline starts. No effort at all being put in now. They're just turning those big gears over with their body weight virtually, waiting for the start of a sprint. And always behind, that chase group has got to be closing in on these. Let's look at this. Richard's gone to the other side of the road. There's our television cameraman. So we've got two cameramen here and none with Laurent Madouas, which is rather a shame. Just doing all they have to do now to keep those bikes going forward. Armstrong very, very alert. And look at this now, Mauro Gianetti. He's watched and waited. Now he's gone. This is what I think he had to do. If he is tired, he had to go for the long one. He's got the jump at 1 kilometre to go. Armstrong is after him. A little bit slower off the mark is Pascal Richard, but he's on there now. And that's a good move by Mauro Gianetti. Armstrong is having to find a lot of speed here to get on. The initial surge by Gianetti at 800 metres to go to the line. Looks over his shoulder. Richard as well is trying to get onto the back wheel of Armstrong. This isn't what Armstrong wanted, this big effort to close the gap, but he's closed it. He's now back onto the wheel of Gianetti. Gianetti has spotted it, stops immediately. Armstrong won't want to go through. Now, is there going to be an immediate counter from Pascal Richard, who's gone through the middle and kicked straight away? That's the way to do it. Armstrong spotted it, gone straight across to the wheel of Pascal Richard. Gianetti, much slower to react this time, I think must settle the third now. But they've slowed right down. Richard has slowed down again about 500 metres from the line. That's going to allow Gianetti a few deep breaths and a good chance for Armstrong as well, because that was a serious effort to bring back Gianetti, and it took a lot of effort. Pascal Richard, I felt, should have hit just that couple of seconds earlier, because Armstrong saw him going. He waited till he was alongside Armstrong before he went. Now they're trying, this is look more like a track sprint here as Pascal Richard tries to keep both riders pinned to the barriers, so he can keep an eye on both of them. It's a long time since we've seen a finish like this one. They come up to 300 metres to go to the line. Pascal Richard watching Gianetti, his ex-teammate, I think he said ex-friend, but that's certainly not true, his ex-teammate and friend, while Lance Armstrong has the lead. 300 metres to go. Why doesn't Lance kick now and kick hard? Round the corner, they'll see the finishing line. Armstrong has gone through, and I think I'd have been tempted to have gone before now, but Armstrong is going to start the wind-up very late, and he's going to have to take it now directly from the front as Armstrong goes up now, launching it for the front. Pascal Richard is right in on his inside and is going to Armstrong's right. Armstrong goes after him, but on the line he takes it almost with ease. Armstrong gets second place, Gianetti gets third, and this is how close they were, because right up behind them, Laurent Madouas gets fourth on a roller, and that is a great result for Madouas. This looks like Fabio Fontinelli, who comes up for the Italian MG team. He will get fifth. Fontinelli continuing his series of fifth places in the World Cup Classics, and behind him is Rebellin, and there's the result. A clear win and a fairly convincing victory in the end for Pascal Richard, who there he is giving the interview, and my goodness me, is he going to be happy, because he read the race to absolute perfection today. I think Lance Armstrong will be a bit disappointed with that, because I felt he should have opened the sprint a little bit earlier, and he may have had a better chance at the first place. So Pascal Richard gets his classic victory, Liege Bastogne Liege, and this is how he did it. He went to the right of Armstrong. Armstrong did his best to move across to him, but about there he knew he had no speed like Richard today. But in the Ardennes Championship, Armstrong, Gianetti, Richard will be the order for that prize. Let's join Paul Sherwin now with Lance.
This year's been a special year for you in the Ardennes, because you walked away with the Fleche Wallonne, a 60-year-old event, and you rode it with incredible tactical sense.
I always thought Fleche Wallonne was good for me, and I always wanted to do well there, but I'd always been too excited and It's truly one of the hardest races, and it's hard early in the race. And I would always want the real racing to begin earlier than the race wanted to be, and so that was always my problem. But this year, I really tried to be patient, and it worked out.
Did you find it hard to be patient because you knew going into Fleche Wallonne that the form was there and you knew you had a great chance of winning, but you also seemed to be forcing yourself to hold back?
Well, for me, I felt as good the year before, I think, but I attacked the first time up the Muir, and after you make a mistake like that and you realize that even if you feel good, you're not going to ride away from the field like that on that course, you tend to learn pretty quickly.
Now in the final kilometres, Didier Roux was quite strong there. Did you have any feeling at all that he might beat you to the top?
Well, you never know with a race like that. He'd had a great year, and he's a strong rider. I felt comfortable. I felt good with my form, but you never know.
You enjoyed the victory, though, the final few meters, though.
I definitely enjoyed it. For us and for me, it was. What can you say? I mean, Fleche Wallonne is while it's not a World Cup anymore or now, but it is truly a monument. And for me and for the team and for American cycling, I think that it was a big day. And those are the things that I consider to be good for our sport here. So yeah, of course I enjoyed it.
And contrary to the joy of winning Fleche Wallonne, you were so close again in Liege Bastogne Liege, but even your whole team was magnificent that day.
Right. Well, I think if you look at Liege, we truly dominated that event. We, as a team, made the race. Andrea Perron made the field from 150 to 50 guys. Axel and Madouas were there all day. I was going through different phases of feeling good and feeling not so good, and blew out a back wheel, and they were there for me. And if it wasn't for that team, I honestly don't think I would have been second.
You've been so close. You've been second twice. You finished sixth. You're going to come back one day and win Liege Bastogne Liege?
Definitely. No question.
Why is it so special?
Well, the success helps. When you have an event that you've always been competitive in and you've always been in the front, then I think it's automatically a special event. For me, the timing is always right, because at Liege I know that in a week or two I'll be going home as well, which helps. I mean, if it's Milan-San Remo, I know I have 6 weeks or 8 weeks until I get to go back to the States, and Liege is oftentimes the day before I leave to come back to America, and that's sort of my final race in Europe for the spring, and that gives me added motivation because I enjoy coming home.
And let's wish Lance Armstrong good luck for the upcoming Tour du Pont. I hope you've enjoyed this. If your name was Lance Armstrong, you certainly did. Until the next time, goodbye.